Hey Mark, ready for another deep dive? I've been digging into something that I think you'll find, really interesting.
Oh, Jenny, you know I'm always time's up for a good tech dive. Especially when you've got that "I've discovered something amazing" glint in your eye. What have you got for me today?
Okay, so picture this. PostgreSQL, right? Everyone's favorite open source database. It's like the reliable workhorse of the internet.
Yeah, it's the backbone of so many applications. Rock solid, dependable. What's the twist?
The twist is distributed PostgreSQL. Specifically, a company called pgEdge. They just secured some serious funding. And it got me thinking about, the future of databases, especially at the edge.
pgEdge. I've heard whispers. They're doing some interesting things with multi-master replication, aren't they? Making Postgres work across different locations. Almost like magic?
Exactly. And that's what's so fascinating. It's not just about having backups. It's about having active, time-writable, times databases in multiple places, asterisk at the same time. Think about the implications for, say, global applications or businesses that need super high availability.
So instead of one central database that everyone connects to, you've got multiple databases that are constantly syncing with each other. And if one goes down, the others are still up and running? Seamlessly?
Precisely. And this recent funding round, $23 million, with backing from some big players like Akamai and QRT, it really validates the idea that this isn't just a niche concept. This is something businesses are actively seeking.
Akamai being involved is... Well, that is significant. They're all about content delivery and edge computing. That tells me pgEdge's technology is probably a key piece in making edge applications faster and more resilient.
That's my take too. It's like they're saying we need the database closer to the user and it needs to be rock solid. And QRT, they were early times customers of pgEdge, so their investment is even more of a vote of confidence, right?
It's like they've experienced the benefits firsthand and now they're doubling down. Okay, let's get a asterisk little times technical for a moment. During it. One of the things that always puzzled me about distributed databases is conflict resolution. What happens when two people update the same record at the same time, but from different locations?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? From what I understand, pgEdge uses something called multi-master asynchronous replication, and they've got some clever algorithms to handle conflicts. They claim sub-50 millisecond resolution, which is... well, that's fast.
Sub-50 milliseconds. That's really quick. Basically, it means that even if there are conflicting updates, the system can sort it out incredibly quickly, minimizing any disruption. It's kind of like having multiple chefs in different kitchens working on the same recipe, but they have a system to make sure they don't mess things up.
Great analogy. And think about the use cases. Financial services, where even a second of downtime can cost millions, or government agencies that need constant access to critical data. pgEdge is actually working with the European Parliament and some U.S. government agencies.
That makes sense. Those are sectors where reliability and data integrity are paramount. And the fact that it's built on PostgreSQL, that's a big deal. It's not some proprietary, locked-down system. It's open source, which means a huge community of developers contributing to it and scrutinizing it.
Right. And that openness probably also helps with things like compliance, GDPR, HIPAA. Businesses need to know where their data is and how it's being handled. And a distributed system like this can actually help with data residency requirements.
So it's not just about speed and availability. It's also about control and compliance. It's like giving businesses the best of both worlds. The power of a distributed system with the reassurance of a well-established, open-source foundation.
And looking ahead, I think this partnership with Akamai opens up some really exciting possibilities. Imagine edge AI applications, where you need to process data in real time, right at the edge of the network. Having a distributed database like pgEdge could be a significant advantage for those kinds of applications.
I agree. The lower the latency, the better the performance for those real-time applications. But, it's not all sunshine and roses, right? There's got to be a catch somewhere.
Of course. Nothing's perfect. One of the big concerns with distributed systems is complexity. Setting up and managing multi-master replication. That's not a walk in the park. It takes specialized knowledge and careful planning.
And what about cost? You're essentially running multiple copies of your database. That's got to add up in terms of infrastructure and potentially licensing too.
Definitely a factor. And then there's security. More distributed data means a larger attack surface, potentially. You need to be extra vigilant about encryption, access control, all that jazz. It is mentioned that managing this kind of complex setup could potentially increase operational costs significantly.
So, while the sub-50 millisecond conflict resolution sounds great on paper, real-world network conditions could throw a wrench in the works, right? Like, what if you're in an area with spotty internet connectivity?
Exactly. Latency could vary, and that could impact performance. And, while open source is great for collaboration, it also means you're relying on the community for support and updates, to some extent. Although, with a project as big as PostgreSQL, that's probably less of a concern than with some smaller projects.
True. So it really comes down to a trade-off, doesn't it? You're trading the simplicity and, potentially, lower cost of a centralized database for the high availability, low latency, and data residency benefits of a distributed system.
Precisely. And that's a decision each organization needs to make based on its specific needs and priorities. There is no one-size-fits-all answer, I suppose.
It would be great to hear from our listeners on this. Maybe we could ask them, have you worked with distributed databases? What were your experiences? Or even, do you think distributed databases are more secure than centralized ones?
I love that. We could even do a quick poll. We'll include this as a segment. We can also create a quiz segment with a few questions about distributed databases to test their knowledge in a fun way.
That's a great way to boost engagement. And to wrap things up, despite the challenges, it really does feel like we're moving towards a more decentralized future for data, doesn't it?
It will be very interesting to see where it goes. That is for sure. Thanks for breaking this down with me, Mark. It's always more fun to explore these tech advancements together.
Anytime, Jenny. It is fascinating stuff. I always learn something new when we chat. Until next time.